Alright everyone, welcome to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a very interesting macro Bitcoin fractal that I potentially see playing out. Now, this fractal is not only calling for a bottom at 33,000 to between 33 to 34,000, but I also have another very interesting theory on why 33,000 would be the bottom. So let's jump right into today's video. Before we do start off, this is for the seasoned veterans of my channel. You may have been noticing recently that some of my Bitcoin videos have black backgrounds and some have white backgrounds to differentiate from my macro and micro videos. From now on, I'm going to be posting all my short-term analysis. If you do see it with a white background, that's what it is. And if you do see a Bitcoin background with a black background, then most likely I'm going to be covering macro charts and slightly different perspectives. So let's jump right into the video. So starting off with this first part of the fractal, which perfectly called the triple bottom that happened between the ranges of the end of the 2017 bull market and the end of the bear market coming into 2020. So let me show you what we did. You can see we've got these two ascending trend lines. They're basically horizontal, they're slightly facing up, but you can see the first time we came up, we came down and we wicked all the way down on the weekly to this trend line at $3,000. We then had candle body closes at the top of this trend line, confirming this range to be your first floor of support in this triple bottom structure. We then came up, we came down and had a plethora of touch points between these ranges, solidifying the double bottom. We came up, came back down, and this is interesting, we came up to the upper trend line this time. We didn't come down to the middle, we didn't have a wick down to the bottom, we came and wicked down very quickly. Within 1 to 3 weeks we completely just landslided down, and then we confirmed it as a bottom and we started leaving the area. Coming into the absolute bottom, the third drop, you can see there was a plethora of volume stepping, and that is something that we have not seen yet. That is really the only difference between these two fractals. And if we come over to what's going on now, what can you see? Well, we've got a pump up, we've got a move down to the bottom trend line just like we did here, but then you can see most of your candle body closes are at the upper trend line. So this fractal is very similar. You can see these first two touch points playing out exactly as they did before. And what did we do after the first touch point? Well, we came up, we made a high, and then we came right back down into the fractal. You can see we came up, made a new all-time high at that moment in time. We actually topped it out here as well, so not 100% correlated to each other in terms of the highs, but in terms of the lows, this structure where we came and wicked down once, twice, and 3 times is the same here. Once, twice, 3 times, depending on if you want to call this a fourth one, but I would call this 3 wicks all the way down to the bottom. So the second touch point, very similar to what has been going on previously. And as you can see, we are now coming down once again into this trend line. We have technically very quickly touched on it here, but it didn't seem to be like a big touch point, that we got big volume coming into it and big volume coming out of it. So I would be looking for this to come down for another touch point, and in my opinion, I think 33,000 on this fractal could be the bottom for Bitcoin. The absolute low this would be predicting on this fractal would be a move down to 29,000. However, I do think it is very likely that Bitcoin could be coming down between the 34 and 33,000 level and finding a bottom. So that is pretty much it for the fractal. Now I want to show you some quick evidence outside of the scope of what has been going on with this Bitcoin fractal as to what would support this information, because there's a couple of things that I want to show you before I do wrap up the video. First of all, let's jump into the Bitcoin chart, and if I come over to the weekly time frame, what do you see? I made a video about this earlier. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weekly candles. Just so you know, in the whole trading history of Bitcoin, since Bitcoin started trading in 2019, yes, the white paper was in 2008, but Bitcoin did not start trading until 2009. As you can see, since 2009, we have not put in more than 5 consecutive red candles in a row. So what does it mean if we put in 6? I think that would be confirmed that we would at least be having a reversal over the next week. That is signal number one as to why we could potentially be coming down or bottoming at these regions that we're at right now pretty much. But like I said, 34 to 33,000 would be kind of what this fractal would be predicting. Like I said, they don't have to play out to the teeth, but they do look very, very similar to me. Now, what is the other reason beside the fractal and beside the fact that we've got 6 weeks of bearish movement on Bitcoin, which we previously have not seen? Well, if we come over to the Bitcoin logarithmic growth curves, I'm really going to only take 30 seconds here because I made a whole video updating the Bitcoin logarithmic growth curves. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. But let's just look at this chart quickly. If I'm only interested in the low deviation, if you look, you've got 3 orange lines on the Bitcoin logarithmic growth curves. I'm only going to talk about this quickly, so I'm only going to talk about the bottom line, which is low deviation, which is in mathematical terms simply means 1 deviation oversold from the average price. Now, why is this important? Well, historically, you can see we had the first bull market top 2011. We came down to 1 deviation oversold. Bull market top came down to 1 deviation oversold. Bull market top, 1 deviation oversold. Pump didn't make it above the orange line, came down to 1 deviation oversold. What are we doing right now? We are heading right down to this 1 deviation oversold, and look at this historically. Every single bottom, every single time, it is always on 1 deviation oversold. There is only one time where we momentarily broke below this, and we broke below it in mid-March, and we were out of it by late April. So less than a month and a half we were below this trend line. So is it possible that we could go below 1 deviation oversold, which by the way is at 32,000? Well, yes, it is possible, because these don't have to play out to the teeth. They haven't exactly played out to the teeth before, and just because they haven't played out to the teeth doesn't mean that the fractal won't be valid. However, it would mean if we do come down, we would really want to see 29,000 hold, and that would also nicely line up with a perfect triple bottom in terms of the wicks to the downside. Not necessarily the points here, because you can argue 1, 2, 3, and then 4 if you really wanted to be kind of picky and argue this as a touch point. But nonetheless, if we're talking about this trend line down here, you've only got 1, 2, and if we did come down to 29, this could be 3 touch points. So in my opinion, what does this mean? Well, in my opinion, I think Bitcoin is bottoming at 33,000. However, if we do break below it, 29,000 is my absolute lowest price target. I thought this this fractal was a very interesting pattern. Like I said, if you do subscribe to my channel, if you do watch my videos, just know that if you do see these new Bitcoin videos and they do have a black background, I'm going to be talking about more of a macro perspective and things that can affect the macro markets. Different perspectives in the markets using, you know, logarithms, logarithmic growth curves, etc, etc. And if you see an update like this where we've just got the plain white trading view screen, then just expect a standard short-term video running through what is going on in the lower time frame. So I'm enjoying doing these different types of contents over on Brave browser. I've just signed in on TradingView with a random new account just so I can include more of these macro videos over on this account over here, because I'm running out of space to include all my charts on here. When I'm looking for altcoins, I'm like, where is that altcoin, because I have to scroll through all this stuff. So I'm going to start moving over some of my macro Bitcoin charts over to Brave browser. So yeah, like I said, it is what it is. If you see these black backgrounds, then I'm going to be doing these type of videos. If you found value in this content, please like, comment, and subscribe. As always, cowboy out, not financial advice, and most importantly, peace.